The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Good crack-a-noon to our friends on the East Coast. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive Corp. Alongside me today, virtually in Tampa, Florida, is Robert Krug, the network security architect for AVAST. And although he is the home of the Stanley Cup winning Tampa Bay Lightning and the current Super Bowl champions, as well as Tom Brady, he's busier out securing customers and deep sea fishing. So, but he's got a lot of great stuff to say today. So I cannot wait to hear him, and hope you guys like it as well. As you guys know, if you've been to our events before, we're going to meet Productive in 1 minute, and then we're going to talk about securing the network in the cloud, how Zscaler is a very flexible solution for the workforce of today, how it helps you continue your focus on cloud security, which is really important, and stuff like one-click zero trust networking. And I think another thing that Robert will get into a little bit is how Zscaler, which is originally an enterprise solution, partnered with AVAST to make really the mid-market and small mid-market be able to use the solution and use it very effectively, even down to 25 seats, which is pretty cool, I think, and real testament to the vision on both sides there. So that is fantastic. So what we like to do, though, is have more content, less talking. To that end, we're going to meet Productive in a minute, and then we're going to get me off the microphone. So who is Productive, you say? Well, even though you're muted, I'm glad you asked. Productive Corporation provides security solutions for mid-size companies. We have specialized expertise to answer technical and licensing questions. We also implement, test, and optimize all sorts of stuff. We can do full security assessments. We can help you with your AD security. We can do configuration assistance and UTM services, whether that's physical or virtual. We also produce a ton of content like this webinar today. And you'll go see on our website, we have blogs, we have informational content. You can find it all at productivecorp.com/solving security. The bottom line is we have the resources to help you, whether it's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services. Help at productivecorp.com is a great way to reach us. And so if we can help you, let us know. So one of the ways we're doing that is we're talking about relevant technology. We're going to talk about the virtual firewall today with Zscaler, and Robert is going to talk to us about how it all makes sense. He will, I think, dive into some of the details, but if you have questions, utilize the chat feature, and we will get your questions answered right along the way. That helps to make it more interesting. So let's have a warm virtual round of applause for Robert Krug. Robert?
Oh, thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure to be here with you and the Productive team today, and all of your customers and potential security partakers in making sure they're protected in the digital age here as everyone moves to the cloud. So thank you very much for having me, and hopefully everyone will enjoy the presentation and get a little something out of it. With that, I will just real briefly recap who I am and how I'm actually working with the Productive team. So I am the Senior Network Security Architect for AVAST, and in that, I work primarily with the Zscaler technology in a full OEM partnership. I've actually been in network security and engineering now for over 31 years. So I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I've worked with every flagship technology and provider that you can imagine, including back-end core ISPs and their backbone networks, managing large-scale telecommunications and massive international wide area networking, including government technology as part of my background from naval intelligence in the 90s. So with that said, nice little presentation geared up for everybody. I will run through it very quickly. Hopefully everyone gets the energy of it and sees how you can better use today's cloud to actually secure your infrastructure better. So where this really all started is the new normal, right? That's what we all find ourselves in right now. They're basically calling this new normal because of COVID, because of the pandemic and things like that. You saw a huge change in the way that businesses function. I'm sure many of you experienced yourself. Because of this rapid move to work from anywhere, there's been a huge evolving shift in the way that people do business, the way that networks function. And what this was a work from anywhere mentality. Now, many of you, like myself, probably already were a work from home employee. I've actually been a primarily remote employee for the past 20 years, since the introduction of broadband and being able to get more done remotely. I've been primarily working out of my own home mad science lab, bat cave slash mad science lab. So this is where I do all my malware research. I do reverse engineering of malware. I study exploits. I test them. I see what happens, and I figure out how they work, and then prepare educational material, instruction guides, best practice guides, and test evolving technology to ensure that it'll stand up against these threats, which is how I am now at AVAST. Working to this work from anywhere shift is going to be felt, if you haven't already experienced it, is actually on the rise by a dramatic increase. Just as in Google search, year over year, from 2019 to 2020, there was a 309% increase. In fact, 87% there's been an 87% increase of pre-pandemic levels going forward. Because of the past year and a half or so of where people are working remotely for this pandemic, the past 13, 14 months of doing this has been a huge eye-opener to the C-level or the business owners, where people can work from anywhere. Because let's face it, we get more done. There's no traffic. We're not spending 2 hours a day in gridlock. We're not wasting time getting up early to be at the office and then work in an office environment when 90% of our functionality or our uses are being done online. So why drive into an office just to get on the internet when you can do that at home? So this work from anywhere mentality, while many of us have been adapters of it for multiple decades, the rest of the industry has caught on and says, wow, this is a huge increase. In fact, Google just published numbers that they will save more than $1 billion a year by letting their employees work from home. $1 billion saving. So you're going to see more and more of that shift. But with that, you're going to see an increase in the cyber attacks. And that's what brings us into the security architecture of what you need to consider. What is the solution that you need to digitally secure all of your users, no matter where they are? What you actually need to look at is a cloud-driven security model for your new cloud-driven workforce. If you look at some of the stats that AVAST was able to collect in the past year, just in 2020, these are some of the things that cybersecurity experts had to deal with just last year. So you saw more than 30,000 websites hacked daily. 64% of companies worldwide experienced at least one form of a cyber attack. And with every passing second of 2020, 75 personal identifying information records went missing. And just a year over year, from Q2 2019 to 2020, there was a 363% year over year growth in ransomware. And all of us, I'm sure, saw the news headlines just in the past couple of days with the pipeline being hacked by ransomware and being gas shortages in multiple states, causing additional headaches, backlogs, backups and traffic, even physical confrontations as people's patience wore a little thin. This is not going to be a thing that goes away. These cyber attacks are only going to increase. In fact, the very last stat on this slide is very telling. I've been doing this again for a number of years, and I remember in presentations in 2016, 2017, 2018, the number was 115,000 new threats, 125, 150, 175,000 new threats per day in 2019. From 2019 to 2020, 300,000 new pieces of malware created daily. Let's face it, this is something that we're going to have to be prepared for. And the legacy networks, the legacy network security architecture will not be the solution going forward. It's evolved. What am I referring to? Well, there's that traditional perimeter-based security, or that castle and moat technology, right? Where you had all of your data in the network. You'd have some kind of switching core, you'd have a firewall and a router, and then you have your internet connections, right? This was the typical. If we got back in our DeLorean and jumped back in time just a whole 10 years, 2010, this was the standard in network topology. But that changed because everything evolved to where no longer needing those workstations and servers on the physical network, they all transitioned to a cloud-based offering. So you had everybody shifting to where no longer needing those complex servers and deployments. I'm sure many of you shifted to Office 365 or G Suite or other cloud-based solutions like Salesforce, Dropbox, Amazon, AWS, Azure, the list goes on and on. So then the network shifted to be able to increase the security inspection for everybody in the office, right? This is where everything, we had the UTMs, the Unified Threat Management Gateway, the next-gen firewalls, those big shiny boxes, right, in the office, the do it all at one box kind of security approach. But there was another shift to this. It evolved further. And what we really saw, it's really been happening for more than a decade now, but we really saw it in massive waves in the past year, and that was a mobile workforce. So now you've got this distributed work from anywhere workforce. They don't all have shiny next-gen firewalls inspecting the encrypted traffic with sandbox technology distributed to all of where they're working from. Your employees at home don't have shiny UTMs that you're managing securely and productively from a central location. What about if they're traveling? What about if they said, you know what, I'm tired of being stuck at home. They all went down to Key West in the past couple of days. I can attest to the traffic down there. I was down there myself. So people traveling, they're going to the vacations. They're starting to open up again. So now you've got your work from anywhere employees working from anywhere. How do you secure that, right? So you need a truly cloud-delivered security solution for your cloud-driven workforce. And that's where AVAST and Zscaler have joined forces. Zscaler is a very large enterprise-based offering. They've been in business for a little over 12 years now. They've been a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader for cloud secure gateways for the past 10 years in a row. In fact, in 2020, Zscaler was the only vendor in the leader quadrant for the Gartner Magic Quadrant for cloud-based security gateways. And that's because they literally have the best technology going. And that's why AVAST has partnered with them to deliver the AVAST Secure Internet Gateway to provide security for all your users, regardless of their devices, whether it be Mac, whether it be iOS, so iPads and iPhones, Windows devices, including laptops, Surface tablets, workstations, or even the occasional phone, Android for all of the other tablets and phones that are out there, and even Chromebooks, where you have this internet secure gateway applied. It puts your firewall technology, your inspection, your capabilities of securing all of your internet traffic in the cloud. So it doesn't matter where your users are, branch offices, HQs, cloud-based offerings like Azure or AWS, or your mobile user traveling all over the world. You're always behind the gateway because the gateway's in the cloud. And it's not just one data center where you backhaul all your traffic to. It's more than 150 data centers on a proprietary backbone so that you can manage all your users no matter where in the world they are, no matter where in the world they're going, without introducing latency or bandwidth bottlenecks, and make sure that they're being inspected and protected from the latest cyber breach that's coming after them. Inside the Secure Internet Gateway, you have very granular security policies that you can configure for each of your locations. You can set up your own company profiles and information, screen graphics and alerts. You control how your users authenticate, whether it's an on-prem LDAP from your existing Active Directory on-prem, or it's your Azure AD or Google G Suite, or even just local users configured on the portal. You configure however you want them to authenticate and however you want them to connect, including custom end user notifications, agent configurations, PAC files, those are proxy access control files, and controlling your own granular URL network configurations, network applications, and even data leakage. This gives you the ability to provide a security inspection and policies no matter where in the world those users go from a single pane of glass. You don't have to manage all of those 150 data centers. It's done for you and seamlessly. You don't even have to encounter the difference of a user connecting through Sydney, Australia, or Los Angeles, California. They would automatically connect to whichever data center is closest to them, and all their traffic would go through your dedicated, private, secure internet gateway, and you could control all of their security policies like malware protection, content filtering, advanced threat protection, and of course, the ever important SSL inspection. This gives you the ability to manage the endpoint application, ensuring that it's set up to be tamper-proof and managed so that they can't disable it or turn the security off, or that the agent is always running. Even if they shut down and reboot the device, get on a plane and travel across the Atlantic Ocean, connect into an airport in Europe, they're automatically going to connect to whichever data center is closest and have all their firewall controls applied seamlessly to their traffic. This includes inspecting. Yes, sir.
So if I'm a customer, do I get, right, I'll get my Zscaler IP. I point all my individuals to that IP, and then they get routed through Zscaler of what the most efficient route is, or how does that kind of get set up?
It's not by IP, it's by the 150 data centers. They'll connect to Zscaler.com. They do this it's all done dynamically in the back end. The agent will phone in and authenticate. Once that handshake is done, it determines where the user is globally via DNS and make sure that they're connecting to whichever data center is closest to them. But there are 150 of those. And it would make sure that there's no latency engaged, including, this is a great question because that is provided to them with a service level agreement with financial terms applied to ensure that their service is no latency or bandwidth bottlenecks are introduced inside this inspection as they go to the different data centers.
Okay,
there is no limitation.
So it's an agent's installed, and they can, right, you basically point your users to Zscaler.com to get that agent, right?
No, the agent can be silently installed via group policy or other RMM tools, or incorporated through other MDM technology to push the agent, make sure that it's on the device. It also supports single sign-on for those organizations that are using, like if you had a completely Azure AD environment, you can link it all, or G Suite, you can link it all to single sign-on. The agent is automatically on, and even with the private access, which I'll cover in just a moment, will include machine level authentication so that the Windows login itself is actually performed over the private connection. So you can create a 100% zero trust network architecture without the complexity or the complex cost or deployment or managing the infrastructure. You simply set up the rules and you provide the inspection for blocking of viruses, Trojans, worms, ransomware. All of that's on for you by default. Then, of course, you set up your granular content filtering policies, and they can be very specific by the category with 90 default categories to choose from. You can choose rules by users, groups, departments, groups of locations, even by time of day, and to specify even which client is content filtering rules applied to. For example, you can have different content filtering rules applied to Chrome versus Firefox versus Safari versus Edge if you wanted to go so specifically. This allows you to ensure that your users are adhering to perhaps content filtering rules that you may deem appropriate for your environment. Maybe you don't want those corporate issued devices like working on some, let's just say, less than usable or less work related websites. So you want to create those policies to block that. Of course, just for the articles, mind you, you can see this particular web request was actually blocked. And in this, you can actually create your own customized messaging here to determine which one, what the portal actually says, what the end user sees. And this expands to controlling which applications they use. For example, if you want to create a rule that controls if they're allowed to access personal webmail on your corporate issued device or personal device, It doesn't matter because you can build the policies per device, per user, per time of day, and say, you know what, we're going to block Gmail so that if the user attempts to connect to Gmail, they're not allowed to use that email service. And this single, easy to manage portal obviously also includes the SSL inspection. Anyone that's followed me or any of the presentations I've given for more than the past 10 or 12 years now, I talked heavily about the need to inspect encrypted traffic. Did you know that more than 94% of the world's internet is now encrypted? That's HTTPS. You need to inspect those communications, otherwise you will be missing out on the threat that's actually coming after your network. 94% of all malware is now being introduced over an encrypted communication. That's HTTPS. You need to inspect that. And that's been an incredibly complex challenge for users, to network admins, to deliver with those shiny firewall boxes I mentioned earlier. It's incredibly challenging, incredibly difficult, so they've given up and essentially turned it off. But that effectively turns off their security as well. With this solution, again, the AVAST Secure and Gateway powered by Zscaler is an easy button solution to deploy the SSL inspection and build your granular policies for inspecting encrypted communications, including even on your mobile devices, so that it's instantly delivered and instantly on. Turn up takes minutes, not days, not weeks, not months. You're online and secure in mere minutes. And remember what I said about no bandwidth or latency. You can see that I'm actually getting protected by the Zscaler inspection. And you can see I'm actually on here. You see the Zscaler IP addresses. I connect to speedtest.net, and I'm getting all of the throughput that my ISP delivers me. And I'm doing that 100% inspected. And this even includes the rest of the evolving network. Remember that I talked about how we access the internet, but what about those legacy networks that still have on-prem resources? Well, that castle and moat technology was used heavily there as well, where you had users connecting in via VPN tunnel, whether it be IPsec or SSL, and back to that edge device or services hosted inside the network. Well, many of these devices had been compromised in recent years. Some of them in just the past couple of months have had to announce zero-day vulnerabilities that allowed hackers to hijack your VPN session. Well, AVAST and Zscaler have delivered a new solution for this called the Secure Private Access that removes this legacy-based technology of opening ports and exposing the internet to your VPN gateways. With the Secure Private Access, we actually deploy connectors on-prem inside the environment, just a virtual piece of software, virtual appliance, or even just an app that you run on Linux. It phones home to your secure internet gateway and creates a gateway where you can route applications or services or even entire IP blocks back into your internal gateway. This allows you to create a one-touch button to deliver a true zero trust network architecture. These connections will automatically allow you to provide the gateway access to Azure, AWS, or your on-prem environments. Or you can build cloud-based proxy IDP sessions to enforce user logins so that you have more of that CASB approach, so that you can control what users are doing on your network with no matter where in the world their devices or users are. And this entire licensing model is based on the number of users, not devices, not locations, not bandwidth. It doesn't matter if you have 100 users in one location or 100 users in 100 locations. It doesn't matter if you have 100 users using one device each or 10 devices each. It's only licensed by the users. This creates a much more streamlined and better user experience. This zero-touch network architecture never places users on your network. It's all based in the cloud. You can segment your app by application and not the network, removing those open ports and other configurations by using an inside-out technology. What I mean by that is if I were to scan the outside as an attacker and scan the outside of your network, I would be unable to see that you were running the Zscaler service. I would be unable to see that you were using that private access. There would be no open 443 or UDP 500 to connect in for VPNs. I would not see that at all because it's an inside-out connection. This will literally transform the internet, that public infrastructure, into your new corporate network. It is a 100% cloud delivered zero trust network architecture service. All of this empowers you to deliver real security to all of your users, regardless of what device or where in the world those devices are, or where in the world they're going. With the service always on, it can be actually meant to be tamper-proof. So even if you install this on someone's personal iPhone, if they were to reboot the phone, they would still be protected by this endless and seamless security inspection. This would allow you to provide that internet and private data security for that workforce, no matter where they are, with content filtering and cloud app control, advanced threat protection and malware defenses, data leakage prevention, and of course, the ever important encrypted traffic inspection. All of this also includes built-in granular analytics and reporting, including detailed change management logs, so you can go in and see exactly who did what, when, where, and how, where they connected from, what device they were using, what website they were going to. This provides that secure private access to on-premise or even those cloud-hosted applications and services. It seamlessly ties it all together at a single pane of glass, again, with an easy licensing model that delivers security in minutes, not days, weeks, or months. In fact, the record migration time right now is 32 minutes for migrating a 50-person law firm. That's how long it took to deploy this technology. As it's all cloud delivered, it's instantly available to all of the users and all the devices in your network. And of course, that's how we are working with Productive to actually have that delivered to their customers and ensure that they can easily provide that security without the delay of shipping, ordering equipment, or running into delays with backups as far as manufacturing backups or shipping delays due to infrastructure challenges due to COVID. Because it is cloud delivered, you're having security at day one, and that's where you can actually protect against the threat of tomorrow. With that, I'll open it up. We have a few minutes left. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or even snide remarks, or seen any good movies?
Wow, that's a lot to throw out there. No snide remarks. A couple thank yous for the presentation. My question is, how long would you expect to get this thing up and running? Right, if I sign up and I want to get it rolling, how long does it take me? Is the first question. And second, is it easy to run it in a passive mode so I can kind of see what it's doing before I go live with it?
Yes and yes. So the average implementation time, the average turn-up time for even someone who is brand new to this process, we submit the initial, we can even do a proof of concepts for organizations if they'd like to drive it free for 30 days. We spin it up within, you get an invite to join a Zoom meeting or a GoToWebinar, either one. A GoToMeeting will work with you. You'll get the credentials. If it's managed by Productive, obviously they would be deploying this for you. For the typical customer, we would all get on a conference call, make sure everybody has the credentials to log into their dedicated private portal, and then we configure the access. The typical turn-up introduction call is scheduled for about an hour and a half at the most. And that's if we're doing both the private access and the internet gateway. These two services can be sold separately or bundled together. Once the service is online, typically that first hour-long call is all that's needed. The service can be deployed in a passive way to where we route traffic through it without any enforcement. The security inspection's on by default. So by default, we will be blocking any threats, of course, but you don't have to turn on the content filtering or application restrictions or anything like that. That's completely customizable. You can turn off the threat defenses, of course. That I would not recommend. Obviously, you'd want to block the bad stuff. Because it's cloud driven, we have this up and running for you literally in minutes. And it would be the average deployment time, again, it takes about an hour and a half. For large organizations, right now I'm actually working with one of our organizations who has more than 30,000 seats. That one we're actually projecting of migrating, multinational corporation, projecting it to be done, believe it or not, in approximately 60 days. They'll be migrating one territory per week as they go through that and displace their existing technology. It is completely doable and supported and easily managed, even for the large organizations or the small organizations. Even if you only have 20 users and a Office 365 tenant, we can deploy this in mere hours and be done with all of your security inspections.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, Robert, thanks so much. We're at the bottom half of the hour, so we're going to wrap this up.